All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the March 26, 2025 Subdivision Technical Review Committee meeting. Can you hear me now? Is this better?
I'm hard of hearing anyhow.
That's okay. I will now call the meeting to order. I will now call the roll. Planning Manager Temple, who has been assigned by the interim city manager to conduct duties on behalf of the Community Development Director.
Here.
I, Catherine Cho, the city engineer, am here. Bill Dorman, the building official, is absent. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. By motion of the Subdivision Technical Review Committee, this is the time to notify the public of any changes to the agenda, rearrange the order of the agenda, and provide an opportunity for any member of the committee or staff to request an item to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I second. How do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Moving on to the oral communications. At this time, members of the public may address the committee regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the committee cannot discuss or take action on any items not on the agenda unless authorized by law. Those members of the public wishing to speak are asked to come forward to the microphone and state their name for the record. All speakers will be limited to a period of 5 minutes. Has staff received any written comments on today's meeting? No.
No comments.
Does anyone wish to speak at this time?
Before we move forward, this is an opportunity to speak on any item that is not part of the agenda. And once we get to the scheduled item, there'll be opportunity to speak. So if you're here to speak on the item scheduled, we'll do that once we get to that item.
What is the agenda?
What's the agenda? It's basically the subdivision of the 217 15th Street.
Okay. Nothing specific about if they want to make it to 2 lots or
There'll be a presentation on that with those details.
Yeah, she's got a legit.
All right. We have nothing on the consent calendar, which brings us to the scheduled matter. We have item number 1 in new business, which is the tentative parcel map 2024-108 for the property known as 217 15th Street. Will staff provide a report, please?
Hi. I'm Patricia Garcia, Associate Planner, and I will be presenting an application for tentative parcel map 2024-108. The proposal is to divide the residential property at 217 15th Street, located in Old Town, into 2 separate parcels. The zoning designation for the site is Residential High Density 20, RHD 20. The proposed parcels will each be 25 feet in width by 100 feet in depth, totaling 2,500 square feet in area. This meets the minimum lot dimensions and area requirements in the RHD 20 zone. The existing parcel consists of lot 17.
Yeah, she can't hear you.
Yeah. Okay. The existing single parcel consists of lot 17, 12.5 feet of lots 15, 12.5 feet of lot 19 of block 221 of tract number 10. The first proposed parcel will consist of 12.5 feet of lot 15 and 12.5 feet of lot 17, and the second parcel will consist of 12.5 feet of lot 17 and 12.5 feet of lot 19. The site is currently developed with a single family dwelling with a 2-car garage. This will remain the use for one of the proposed new parcels. The proposed vacant parcel will be required to be developed in compliance with Seal Beach Municipal Code regulations and standards. The site is designated as residential high density in the general plan. The proposed tentative parcel map improvements are consistent with this designation. The request is compliant with California's Subdivision Map Act, as it has access to public roads, utilities, and public services. It is also compliant with Seal Beach Municipal Code in standard lot area and dimensions for the RHD 20 zone. Staff does request a correction to the resolution document under section 5B. The sentence starting with tentative parcel map 2024-108 should be updated to read tentative parcel map 2024-18 proposes to subdivide one existing 50-foot wide by 100-foot deep parcel into two 25-foot wide by 100-foot deep parcels. The sentence had originally read one 50 wide lot into two 50 wide parcels. Staff recommends that the Subdivision Technical Review Committee find the subdivision is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Category Exemption 15 for minor land divisions and approve tentative parcel map 2024-108 with conditions. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Patricia. Are there committee comments?
I'll wait till after public testimony.
Sounds good. Is the applicant present today? No? Sounds good.
We're all neighbors.
If they were here, I would have asked them if they had anything to share. I will now open the public hearing. Are there any public comments?
Yes. I can barely hear either one of you. You're gonna have to speak up or turn your microphone up. Well, I'm hard of hearing. Casualties of the sheriff's department. I'm Melody Costello.
Please.
Okay, well, mic is always on. Can you hear me? I'm sure you can. Okay. I'm Melody Costello, Costello, at 213 15th, adjoining the property that we're talking about today. I am concerned, and I have to read this after working with my representative for Old Town. I'm concerned about the integrity of the property line on the 213 side as represented in the mapping up there. There was a brick and mortar construction project done jointly between owners of 217 and 213 in the 1970s that altered the property line. I would like the city to ensure that property line represented in the that mapping is accurate because it may affect the sale of 213 in the future. There was and this is added information, there was a fire in the local city hall in the 70s where all the records were destroyed. When my husband and I purchased 213 some 25 years ago or so, there was an issue that caused me to have to go to Santa Ana and work in the archives for a week to find a permit that had been issued for our property but was not on file here. So this is why I'm raising the question. The project between the two neighbors was extensive, like brick, concrete, flower beds, fence was moved. It was extensive. So I am challenging, the information on that map. I feel like that's something that was probably pulled up from somewhere and may not be current. As far as, I'm not opposed to them splitting the lot. or the new build. The remodel on the other house, that's not likely. I will say that. That's it. That's it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you so much.
Are you gonna clap for me? Thank you. I'm not. Only because there was a discrepancy when we bought the 213 property that caused me to go to Santa Ana. The city's local records didn't show that a permit had been issued for some work done on our property. And when I went to Santa Ana, there had been a permit allowing the property. I don't know what the circumstances were. Obviously, the two neighbors liked each other. They moved flower beds. There's brick edging around and concrete laid, and the fence was cut and altered, and we're mostly talking about.
This is just a reminder
Am I 5
that
minutes up?
no, you still actually have 2 minutes left, but just a reminder that you have 2 minutes left and that you please speak in the mic so that we could document.
Okay, well, all right. That's my concern. Because of my age, if I want to sell it, I own the property, no money owed on it, or my kids want to sell it, how do I tell a new owner, well, okay, here's the property, but you see this property right here, somebody else says they own it. So, and again, I asked the city to take it and do an extensive search on that because the records may not be accurate. It may be a gifted thing. It may be a grandfathered thing. The people who owned 217 were the Findlers, and I do know that they reside in Santa Maria. I know I've been told who might have been in 213, and I know that it was done in the 70s because they autographed
You have 30
their work.
seconds left.
That's it.
Oh,
My time's up.
thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to speak?
He is, I think, but I'm gonna run. They can hear me. Do you need me in the mic?
We do because this is recorded. We post it on our website for eternity.
I've already been in town 78 years, so, which is true. As the property stands now, and I don't know if the city has done any surveying or anything over there yet, but the house that is standing that would be closest to hers is not on a 25-foot lot. So my concern when you said they are wanting to build a new build on the other side, that's fine. But for them to be able to redo the other 25-foot lot, or what was the term they used? They were going to remodel. The house that's standing really literally would have to be torn down. The place is rotten, so to speak. I mean, it's very much, so I can understand, and I'm not opposed to them dividing the two lots. We live right across the street, and we happen to be two lots, but we're 222 and 224. So we wouldn't have to go through this if the lot was torn down. But there's no way that they can remodel without doing a pretty much of a demolition on it. Now, I mean, that's fine, but the house is not set on a 25-foot lot as it stands. So that's basically,
Thank you.
yeah.
Don Mabe, not the better half. I'm opposed to this. We've lived across the street.
I'm sorry. Do you mind stating your name, please?
Don Mabe,
Thank you.
M-A-B-E. We've lived across the street from that property for over 49 years. The people that own that property don't even live in this country, let alone the state or the city, and know the congestion we have. If you have two houses with two people and they have two kids, now you have 4 cars. And you mentioned earlier the excess is for safety and stuff is approved. That's totally inaccurate. The Uniform Fire Code for the streets are 28 feet wide. The streets 13th through 17th and the 200 and 300 block are 23 feet wide. We have improper access as taxpayers to respond to our streets, and now you're going to add 2 new houses. They say they're going to remodel and this and that. We all know it's going to be 2 new houses eventually or more congestion. And that's why I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good morning. My name is Brad Huntz. I'm at 225 15th Street, and I more have questions than commentary. My questions, first of all, is what's the definition of high density, for my own clarity, for zoning? Is that something you can respond to?
We can respond after
Okay.
we get all the oral
That's
comments.
a question I have.
Any question you ask, I'm writing down and we will respond
Okay,
to.
because I have a concern about the ability to build a multi-unit apartment on one of the 2 new lot, or the empty lot that they're proposing. The other one I wanted to echo from a prior speaker, which is if they do a remodel, which will probably be 1 stud left in the building, I do not know the exact engineering laws of what the unit relative to the board boundaries are, but that one is probably not going to be within scope, so it would have to be looked at. Just the way that the lot's divided, I don't think that they could do that for that one, for the existing property. So they were my 2 concerns. And again, I'd like to get some clarity on density. The one thing I would personally be opposed to is a multi-unit apartment, if in any of the 2, if they're going to be doing that, or in if they decide for some reason to combine them, which I don't know if it's been discussed as an option to be put there. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now is the time for discussion and deliberation by the committee.
Did you want to start or? I'll start. Actually, I'll just start on a
we
few
could-
items. I just want to answer some questions. First, the definition of high density. So within the Old Town area, it's called residential high density 20. What that means is 20 dwelling units are allowed per every 1 acre. And so as opposed to this, like the Hill or College Park East, College Park West, they're 9 units per acre. So what that essentially means is 1 unit per every 2,100 square feet. And each, if were to be subdivided, are 2,500 square feet. And so to be more clear, with its current configuration at 50 feet by 100, you could build a duplex by right. If you split it into 2, you can build 1 unit on each.
Is that a multi-dwelling unit though?
The duplex?
No, let's say the 25-foot lot, if they build a 4-unit apartment.
No, so they would be limited to 1 unit per 2,100 square feet. And because they're 2,500 square foot property, they would need 4,200 square feet to build a second unit. However, just for transparency, the state of California now allows every single family home to build accessory dwelling unit. So that any of the houses on the street right now could build additional unit.
But they're all house. There's no yard. Where are you going to put the AD?
Correct. You're correct. There's certain lot coverage items like that.
Half a lot you could, but not 25.
And then in terms of the remodel and the boundaries, so within the zoning here, for the 25-foot wide lots, they're allowed. You must provide 3 feet of space from the structure to the side property line, 12 feet from the front, and then in the back where there's an alley, from the rear of the structure to the back of the alley has to be 24 feet. Those units have to meet those standards. And so the existing residential unit has to be at a minimum remodeled so that those setbacks are met. Now, whether or not that means a total rebuild, that may be the case of what needs to happen, but at minimum, there needs to be a significant structural alteration. And so as how this process works for a subdivision, this is what's called a tentative parcel map. And there's conditions set forth before they receive the approval of the final map. Meaning, and one of those conditions is they have to make these structural changes to that house before they receive the final map approval, and that this property is divided into two. So that has to happen first.
Does anyone know if the existing structure already would fit in a 25-foot lot based on the rules that you just...
No, it would need to come in 3 feet,
Okay.
and that's already been identified.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Let's, hypothetical, let's say her property, years ago, they took 2 feet by 20 feet and did this brick or whatever they did. Could they make the back end or garage narrower by 2 feet to comply with the 3-foot setback and still build? It wouldn't be a 2,500 foot lot or 50 by 100. 25 by 100.
So there was, just for the record, there was a question on what if the lot was altered as described by the first speaker. Catherine, did you want to speak on the legal description and the surveying of the property?
Yes. So as part of this initial review before this meeting, we did have a consultant who specializes in subdivision map act to check all of the records based on these particular lots and the adjacent lots that are affected. They would have had to review old surveys, old county records, and things like that. Not at all to say that we won't go back and check again just to make sure, but that all should have already been checked based on this map that they've provided us.
My question is, if it wasn't 2,500 square feet, 25 by 100, can 400 feet less? Can they still build a house with, let's say 2,400 square foot?
Yeah, so I'll jump in. The part of this review, so we're kind of in an interesting position because the purpose of our review is a technical review to ensure that all the code in regards to public right-of-ways and the private property itself are being met. And the city council, when they, in the last version of the zoning code 2011, and probably previous to that, established a minimum property size for residential properties in Old Town to be 2,500 square feet. So we're not allowed to make a decision that results in a property being less than 2,500 square feet. Now, I understand that maybe in the 1970s, there was something built in a certain area. We have reviewed the records, and as our city engineer has said, we have a consultant who specializes in this type of work to also do those reviews. This, if approved, is approved as shown in this configuration. Both the parcels are 25 by 100 for 2,500 square foot area.
So if this lady is approved, like, let's say it's 100 square feet, and so it's 2490, they can't build a house on 2490.
So if this property owner would have come to the city and requested for one lot to be 30 feet wide and the other one be 20 feet wide, we would not be able to recommend approval based on the requirements of the square footage. Yeah.
But all that's to just say that we have done the due diligence, the research for the they call it the legal description, which is essentially how a surveyor does the measurements, and they've done that research and we submitted it to a third party for verification to that those are the legal property those would be the legal property lines.
Well, you don't know that there's been upgrades because those are old maps. They went off, I don't know who did the maps. They are from Central California. They're not local. I suspect they just looked at the maps and went on that. And whether or not they're accurate, I don't know. That's my question.
There's actually there's a question on the veracity of the maps. Actually, every property, if you look within your deed, has what's called a legal description, and it's a formula for a surveyor to go out and do measurements of the property, and so that it was verified against that standard.
And I guess this is an issue for another department or another time, and I know when they first bought the property, they wanted to use that house as a recovery facility for people recovering from eye surgery. He's an eye doctor, she's a technician, x-ray or something, technician.
Radiologist.
And the city shot that down, which, thank you. But I don't know what their use for the existing house now is, if they're gonna build a whole new structure. And it kind of goes to the traffic, traffic
Just an input.
concern.
The street's 23 feet wide. California state law says you can be 18 inches from the curb. So that's 3 feet. So now the street is now 20 feet wide. Small car is six feet plus. 6 and 6 is 12 from 20. That leaves like 7 feet. The fire engine's 8 feet. So sure, the fire engine truck can drive down the street, but you can't work off of it. And you're thinking, well, how can I say that? I was a fire apparatus engineer for 32 years. So I drove the engine down those streets. But you have to pull the hose out, you gotta open the door, you have to remove the equipment. Now, they park on electric or landing and carry all the stuff down to the victim's house. As we know, strokes and heart attacks, seconds matter. Not minutes, seconds. We just saw a fire wind. We saw Lahaina. We saw Northern California. Right now, the engine can't come down the street and fight the fire on that end of town, 13th through 17th, the 200 and 300 blocks, and Marine and Dolphin on the other side of Electric.
If I may, regarding a concern for fire safety and street widths, I just wanted, it's a valid concern for sure. I just want to clarify though that this meeting specifically is just to determine these parcels.
I think she mentioned safety and it's not, that is a safety issue. You're gonna have families that are gonna be in danger.
Right. And just to add to, if we were to proceed with this tentative parcel map, the next steps, and correct me if I'm wrong, would be for them to enter into the building plan check process, where the plans of what they're going to be doing on these properties would be reviewed by all departments, including OCFA. So,
I understand.
right.
I had a meeting with Jill Ingram and Mr. Calman and some other guy, and he said, well, the houses are sprinklered. Well, it's sprinklered, this building's probably sprinklered, maybe not. It's for room and contents, it's not for structure. And then you're gonna have these construction guys, where are they gonna park and drop their nails? In front of our houses? Yeah. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do deeply appreciate everyone coming and speaking today and bringing up your points. I do want to point out that our role is as the technical advisory committee is we are reviewing the code and the Subdivision Map Act to ensure that it meets those standards. And if it does, we approve it. There are certain conditions we add to the project to ensure that they have the access to utilities, that this case already has the access to the public street, to the alleyway. And so what we're just looking for is, does it meet those standards? And if it's not, how do we condition it before the final map? And so the thing that was identified was that that the current existing house would not meet the standards. And so it needs to be at a minimum modified before that the final map could be approved. And so that's the condition that we would place on it, which we have, which is within the document itself. And
Structure is over far enough that I haven't measured it.
yeah, no, it is. It is. We know it is. So, I mean, I just said, and I understand the concern of the density. We're currently having the local hazard mitigation plan, and we're updating the safety element of the city's general plan. So there's been a lot of discussion on the streets on the south end of Old Town, the last 3-4 streets that have they're very narrow. So I do know there has been discussion with fire, and so. But as Catherine pointed out, that's a more macro conversation for what's on those streets, and we can't necessarily penalize a single property when none of the other properties are penalized.
I will just off the record up. I have petitions ready for 13 through 17, and Green and Dolphin are the citizens in favor of taking out the parkland or the parkway on one side of the street. And I went to the city and they said, I don't need a permit to do the petitions. And hopefully I have a volunteer on each street. It's only 2 blocks. The city, just see if, and we know the city's out of money and the water deal, but at least they're aware of the people are willing to give up their tree or their parkway, that's just a sidestep. Anyway, I'm not the enemy, honest.
Do you?
Well, no. Just to echo, we hear you, and we've taken notes, and these are things that we will definitely look into and make sure we condition properly. And again, we will verify the description again just to make sure, but we do appreciate your time. And based on the information provided, based on the documents researched, it does sound like it meets our current codes. So I think we have, we have found no codes that they're violating and that they're aligned with. So I guess if we're ready to make a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
A motion that we find that the project meets the requirements of the Subdivision Map Act and the City Municipal Code, and that we condition the property per the conditions listed in the resolution, including that the house be modified to meet development standards, and additionally to make the correction that staff pointed out in section 5, subsection B, the language be adjusted to read that the property be divided into two parcels, 50 foot wide by 100 foot deep. Mm-hmm. And with that modification, I motion for approval of the project.
And I second that. How do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. This concludes the Subdivision Technical Review Committee. I will now adjourn this meeting. Thank you so much.